The following program is paid for by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Absolute Mortgage Company, NMLS number 81395 and Washington CL number 81395 is an equal opportunity housing lender. Tina Mitchell, MLO number 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Absolute Mortgage. Visit AbsoluteLoans.com or call 888-90-HOMES for cost information. You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell. Sponsored by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Now, in the studio, local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome to the Money Hour at 11:50 a.m. KKNW, the Saturday, April 25th show. I'm your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell. I'm committed to providing you knowledge needed to be successful in every arena regarding your finances. Knowledge is power, and that's what you'll get from listening to my show, The Money Hour. If you're hearing my show at a different time or you're listening to a rebroadcast, but I'm here to answer any questions or connect you with the guests that I have in studio today, please call into the show at 1-855-400-1150. That's, again, 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And my one guest in studio, normally I talk to a few different guests, but very special guest, and I'm excited to have Jen Mueller, founder of Talk Sporty to Me. Jen's a sports reporter, professional speaker, and communications coach, and is, again, a very special guest, and just privileged to have her here. Great information. You definitely will want to stay tuned for the entire show because the show is all about Jen and what she has to share with business professionals around our area. For more information on her topic or anything that we discussed today, again, please call into the show, 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And as always, I'm going to start out the show today with a little money chat.
Money.
I thought it'd be exciting today to bring a little information on Fannie Mae announcing a new opportunity, 3% towards closing cost if you educate yourself. Fannie Mae tweaked their Home Path program by offering 3% in closing cost assistance for home buyers completing an online home ownership course. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with Home Path loans are properties that Fannie Mae has foreclosed and has brought back into the market for new home buyer or purchasers. The benefit is a low down payment, 3% down payment for primary residence or owner occupied, and 10% down payment, which is normally minimum 20% for any of the investors out there. The other benefit is there's no appraisal. So a lot of times you'll see some challenges with some of these properties they were foreclosed on. So that might be hard to get a traditional appraisal for lenders, whereas the appraisal is waived for Home Path properties using Home Path financing. The credit can be used that they're paying now towards standard home buying closing cost points or prepaid. So anything outside of that 3% down payment, you can utilize this 3% that Fannie Mae is offering back to go towards to cover all those other items. In order to qualify for the offer, you must be a first home buyer. So it does not qualify for investors. It's only for a first-time home buyer, defined as someone who has not owner-occupied a property in the last 3 years. So it follows the same guidelines as first-time home buyer requirements for the down payment assistance programs and the tax credits that I've talked about through Washington State Housing Finance Commission. Additionally, you must purchase a Home Path property, which you can find on their website by conducting a property search. So if you just go to Home Path and then go to the property search, you can find all the properties that are available. Now, in our area, they are slim pickings on Home Path properties. And especially right now, I mean, our market's recovering, the economy's getting better, which is awesome. And fortunately, and thank goodness, home buyers are not losing their properties into foreclosure as much as they were back after the financial meltdown. So that's good news. But the opportunity then in properties that are owned by Fannie Mae and have been foreclosed on are slim. So you're not going to see a lot of properties there, but take a look at it because a lot of times you'll get a little surprise that pops up. And a lot of people are not looking at Fannie Mae Home Path properties because they're not familiar with it, or they just are not seeing properties that are available, so they just forget to look. So put that on your trigger to take advantage of properties that may come up. Now, if you do find a property that is worthwhile, the new incentives is referred to as the Home Path Ready Buyer program and is offered in conjunction with a nonprofit by the name of Framework Education. Now, in a nutshell, prospect buyers must complete a 9-module homeowner education course that includes a quiz at the end and kind of reminds me of a little online traffic schooling. So what it's going to cover and go over the course material is pitfalls to avoid, how much you can afford, how to decide what home to buy, how to choose the best loan, how to lower your down payment, what is included in your offer, and what happens at the closing process or during the closing process. Each model takes roughly about 30 minutes to complete and can take, you can take the entire class online, which is great. So you're not having to go to a person-to-person course where you might have to qualify for some of the down payment assistant programs. Also, you can even use it on your smartphone. So that's pretty awesome. Fannie Mae also boasts that the test exceeds the standard of both HUD and National Industry Standard Home Ownership Education and Counseling Programs. So there are some down payment assistant programs that require to have courses. You've heard me bring into studio and talk about the MCC, Mortgage Credit Certificate Tax Credit through the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. That's that awesome 20% tax bracket for any of you first-time home buyers out there. So if you have not heard me talk about it, definitely call into the show. You don't want to miss out on that. And those education programs that are available that you have to take on the online courses are not extensive, which you can look at that as good or bad. I think the education process and the home buying process, I would want it as extensive as possibly that it could be so that you're really educating yourself on things that are important to you as a first-time home buyer. So you're probably going to learn a lot about the home buying process, which is always, again, a plus and certainly a good way to reduce defaults on the associate options or the pitfalls with mortgages. Now, once the course is completed, you receive a certificate of completion that you can download and then include within the offer of purchasing a home for the HomePath property. The online course does cost $75 up front, but Fannie Mae is going to reimburse that if you have a successful closing process. So I think it's a good course to take. Is it worth $75 for you to take that if you're not going to be purchasing HomePath property? I don't know. That's something that you want to look at, but definitely it's worth the $75, being that it's going to be refunded back to you when you close on your HomePath property. Now, in order to be eligible, the request for closing cost assistance must be made at the time that the initial offer is submitted for HomePath in their online system. So it's really, really important that you make note of this and you educate your realtor, because there's a really good chance that the realtor is not going to know that this exists, and if they do know it exists, they may not realize that they actually have to submit that in the initial offer. Very important, because you would hate to lose 3% of your purchase price credit because it wasn't done the appropriate way. This took an effect on April 14th of this year. So again, it's a new program that they've just announced. So if you're in process of closing with a HomePath property right now and you're listening to this, I'm sorry, the credit does not apply to you because your offer has already been submitted through the HomePath online resource. If the lender restricts the amount of seller contributions, which typically they would not, but if they do, you've got to put that in consideration because it would not apply. And then also you've got to make sure that you have enough closing cost and prepaids to utilize that full 3%. So if you don't, make sure that you're paying some additional points to utilize that money to get a little better interest rate to take full advantage of that 3% discount. So really good news. It's nice to see that Fannie Mae is putting some money back there to help our new first-time home buyers. And coming up next on the Money Hour, my guest is a lifelong sports fan with more than a decade of sports broadcasting experience. She knows sports and knows sports fans. So why is she here in studio with me to talk on a money show? Well, she has learned over the last few years that speaking in conferences and corporation training associates most sports fans don't see the big picture. They haven't recognized the full value of sports fandom in business. Are you a business professional? If you are, you definitely will not want to miss my conversation. The entire show, again, is with Jen Mueller, founder of Talk Sporty to Me, sports reporter, professional speaker, and communication coach, right here on 1150 AM KKNW after the short break.
Curiosity changes the world. What are you curious about? What if you could discover how to be more, do more, and have more? Not sometime in the future, in the right now. You will discover practical tools on May 7th at the Tea Palace in Renton that create hope, growth, and purpose in the moment. Join Ringmaster Danny Wynn as he takes you on a musical, entertaining, and transformative adventure intertwined with 8 successful thought leaders who will present on different aspects of productively living your dream now. Take a break from your routine, get out of your normal day-to-day, and discover what is truly possible for you. If not now, when? Proceeds benefit our local youth suicide prevention program. When you sign up now, you not only get to discover how to live your best life, your investment can save a life. Go to thatcuriositything.com and sign up today. That's thatcuriositything.com. Still curious? Again, thatcuriositything.com.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, April 25th show. I provide you news on everything money, fresh information on the market trends and conditions in our local economy. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but can always call into the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150. Always excited to hear from my listeners. You can also go online to themoneyhour.com with any questions or any requests that you have for future shows. And I encourage you, if you don't catch the whole show today, you would definitely want to go to the Money Hour and listen to the podcast that I have with my next guest in studio, Jen Mueller, founder of Talk Sporty to Me, sports reporter, professional speaker, and communications coach. Talk Sporty to Me is a way to create more value out by being a sports fan. It's a way to think outside the box, scores, and use sports fandom as business development tools. Jen talks about creating new business opportunities, maintaining relationships with clients and customers, improve communication and teamwork in the workplace, provide personal branding and networking opportunities. And Jen, I am so thankful to have you here in studio. I know that you are extremely busy gal, and it just feels really special to have you sitting across from me, and I'm just excited about the conversation, so thank you.
That is quite the build-up. Hopefully I can live up to the build-up that you just
had.
Well,
listen to your voice. I'm sure you're going to live up to the build-up. Thank you, Jen. And a little bit background about Jen. Jen is a television and radio sports broadcaster, journalist, sports official, business consultant, and author. She is known for appearing on Seattle Mariners television broadcast for the Roots Sports Network, Northwest Network, while also appearing as a radio sideline reporter for the Seattle Seahawks football. How exciting is that? When she was in college freshman, she began serving as a flag football officer, later becoming the 3rd woman in history to earn All-American honors. She is the founder of Talk Sporty to Me, which is a professional development organization that introduces the value of sports conversation in the corporate environment while focusing on correlation between successful strategic planning and leveraging the playing field in business relationships. And I just love the twist and just the Talk Sporty to Me. I mean, I think that's really, really what it's all about. It's about having something fun and interesting to be able to bring into sometimes can be a little bit of a boring business environment that we have. So I just think it's brilliant. So you talk business in Talk Sporty to Me. What do you do, Jen?
Well, basically, I take the 15 years that I have spent as a sports broadcaster, and I apply it to the conversations and the situations that we have in business all the time. But you might not see the correlation in what I do on the field in a post-game interview and what you do in a boardroom or in a meeting room, but it's there. And Talk Sporty to Me is a different way to think about communication, relationship building, and creating business opportunities. Because you're right. It is about having something that is fun and interesting, but it's also about having something that is universally accepted or understood because of the number of sports fans that are out there. So if you've got sports fans who are going to be talking about sports anyway, you might as well figure out how to put it to use for you in business.
Makes total sense, Jen. And I use the word brilliant. I think it's probably the third or fourth time today because it is brilliant. And so I want to ask the question, why sports? And, and with that, why hasn't anyone else figured this out? I mean, it's so exciting. So what made you think of sports and coaching and business and networking and bringing it all together?
This actually started about 6 years ago. And there was a group of women from KPMG here in Seattle who had asked me to come in and do a little presentation. And their general problem was this. They saw their male counterparts taking potential clients to sporting events. Those potential clients became clients. Their male counterparts ended up making more money and having a higher standing in the company, even though they had the same level of education, expertise, and years in the business. And so these women came to me and said, look, could you help us? Because, half of us know sports, but we don't understand what's going on. Why is this even part of the business world? And the other half didn't know sports at all and couldn't figure out how to insert themselves in the situation. And at the time, I thought, yeah, well, this will be fun. I'll go in and we'll get some talking points down. And I realized during that process, it wasn't just this one company.
Yes.
It's not just women. There's a large group of the population that doesn't understand how this benefits them.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of times, the best ideas are the ones that are right there in front of you. So you ask, why hasn't anybody else figured this out? Because it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
We're looking for the next biggest thing. And in business communication, you want to throw a lot of money at it and you want to hire these consultants. And that's not what I advocate. It's not rocket science. It's actually just listening to people and talking to people. And in the new book, I list, I think, 7 reasons why sports.
Okay.
And I've got a list that could go 15 or 20 deep on that one.
Sure.
But I would say this. Top 3 reasons why it should be sports, whether you are a sports fan or not. More than half of all Americans say that they are sports fans. That is men, women, old, young, across every demographic, across every industry. More than half of all Americans.
Wow.
Conservatively, that means that if you can find some sort of sports connection, you have access to 156 million people.
Yeah, wow. And we also know, Jen, on that note, before you go to the other two, that it really is about connecting with our clients, about connecting with our strategic partners, and it's about being other than just business. But how can we be friends and associate in something that we're both passionate about? So it makes total sense. What about 2? What's the second reason?
It bridges common communication gaps.
Okay.
So one of the things we talk about a lot when I do corporate trainings or in the book is the fact that you've got to speak somebody's language to get your message across.
Okay.
Now, sometimes with me, that means that I have to speak Spanish, which I don't do very well anymore. And my old high school teacher would be very disappointed. But you'll do whatever it takes to make sure that during an interview that's live on TV, that your question is understood so that your answer will come back what you're looking for. In a business setting, it doesn't usually mean that you're speaking a foreign language, but you've got to understand the difference between men and women and the way they communicate in the workplace. And they are driven by 2 totally separate things.
Okay.
Men, as a general rule and as studied by linguists, are looking for information in a conversation. 9 times out of 10, they're looking for information, while women, 9 times out of 10, are looking for intimacy and connection.
Yes.
So this is at complete odds. This affects what we talk about. It affects how long we talk. It affects how we perceive the way people talk about us. When you have sports in the equation, you can tailor it to both audiences so that both sides of that equation get what they need and actually your message gets across clearer.
Makes total sense. So what about the third reason?
Well, I would say if I had to pick the third one, so I could keep going on this one, but
of course.
Here's what I would say. Sports is the only DVR-proof material on TV today. So I want you to think back to like the mid-90s. Do you remember must-see TV on Thursday night? That was NBC's big thing.
It sounds familiar, but it's not connecting.
TV, so like Seinfeld. right?
Okay,
Do you remember
okay.
Seinfeld?
Oh, yeah.
And ER and Friends was on.
Okay.
And that was their big lineup.
Okay.
And they advertised this. I mean, for years it was must-see TV. And you knew that on Friday, wherever you went, if you did not watch ER, Seinfeld, or Friends, you had nothing to talk about because that was all anybody was going to talk about on Friday.
Yeah.
You might use your VCR, but heaven forbid the VCR eats your tape and then you have no idea what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And then they started inventing and using DVRs. And so now programming is very fragmented. For instance, I watch all of my favorite shows about 6 weeks after they air when I actually get a break in the sports schedule.
Yes.
Sports will never, ever be viewed that way. If you know a sports fan, if you are a sports fan, you would never wait 6 weeks to find out the outcome of a game.
Sure.
You might, if it was a really good game like the Super Bowl a couple years ago, rewatch the game in 6 weeks, but you would know what the final score was within hours.
Yes.
That means that you have new content every single day.
Yeah.
For all of the people you are making business
And so that you're
with.
able, instead of just talking about business, you're able to go to a place that's fun and interesting and have that conversation. It's funny that you mentioned Super Bowl because I want to go there, but I want to go to this year's Super Bowl or last year and the year before. So what you just said with the year before, we were in Tahiti on a cruise and they weren't going to play the Super Bowl. And it was kind of like, there's comments back and forth with a couple of the women that, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. You can watch it afterwards. And I swear to gosh, those men were about ready to kill all of us. And so then, but what I really wanted to mention is I wanted to mention this year's Super Bowl because what an amazing game, what an amazing emotion and build and just the dynamics of what was going on during the game and then the dynamics right after the game ended. And I listened to, as you know, Debbie Walter that introduced me and told me all about you. I couldn't stop listening to your videos. And I literally all night, I could not leave the office because I was so embraced in what you were saying. And the first one was you had just brought up your conversation about the Super Bowl. Can you share that with my listeners, Jen? Because I just thought, and this is, it really from a business standpoint, and whether we're talking business or we're talking personal life, it really doesn't matter. It's a mindset and it's a commitment to really having an alertness to how we feel. And so everybody, majority of people out there, let's just say the 80-20 rule, 80% of the people out there were really pissed off. It was affecting everything that was going on in their day. Who knows how long after that happened? And then if somebody could just listen from the lowest place that they were feeling, I know that what you were saying could really turn them around. So give a little clip of your inspiration and lesson learned by that game.
So I was on the sideline for that game, and I was standing on the 5-yard line as that interception happened, and it dramatically impacted the way that my evening went, the way that my next week went, and all of the subsequent days after it. As I'm in the locker room, and it is the toughest locker room I have ever been in, and I've done this for 15 years, toughest locker room I've ever been in. Very difficult to go in and have the guys talk to you after that. There's a lot of emotion from them. Some of them are angry. Some of them are crying. And I look down and I've got a text message on my phone from a national radio affiliate on the East Coast saying, hey, Jen, we'd really like to get you on tonight to talk about the game. And I was momentarily irritated. And I thought, you know what? That is really uncalled for. Yeah. I am in the locker room. I am trying to deal with this. You know that I work for the team. So now I'm emotional about this. And I said, no. I'm not going to, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. Tonight is not the night. I cannot pull myself together to do this. And then the next morning, I start getting text messages from other radio stations. And I wanted to say no to every single one of them because I just didn't want to talk about it. It is still gut-wrenching to talk about. And I realized somewhere in the middle of that kind of thought process that I had been so willing to do all the interviews the week leading up to the Super Bowl because they were positive and they were happy and we were talking about their incredible win over Green Bay. And it dawned on me that if I was willing to talk about the team when things were going well, I needed to be willing to talk about the team when things weren't going well. That was part of my responsibility. And, in business, it's really easy to reach out to clients and to talk to people when you've got the money rolling in.
Exactly.
It's a little harder when you've just hit a rough patch.
Yep.
But you need to be consistent with your messaging because that's part of your branding and who you are.
And that's awesome, Jen. I'm actually going to leave it hanging right here to take us to commercial, and I want to start back up right after the commercial break. Do not turn the station because we do have Jen Mueller, founder of Talk Sporty, to me, sports reporter, professional speaker, and communication coach right here in studio on 1150 AM KKNW. She'll be right back after this break.
Curiosity changes the world. What are you curious about? What if you could discover how to be more, do more, and have more? Not sometime in the future, in the right now. You will discover practical tools on May 7th at the Tea Palace in Renton that create hope, growth, and purpose in the moment. Join Ringmaster Danny Wynn as he takes you on a musical, entertaining, and transformative adventure intertwined with 8 successful thought leaders who will present on different aspects of productively living your dream now. Take a break from your routine, get out of your normal day-to-day, and discover what is truly possible for you. If not now, when? Proceeds benefit our local youth suicide prevention program. When you sign up now, you not only get to discover how to live your best life, your investment can save a life. Go to thatcuriositything.com and sign up today. That's thatcuriositything.com. Still curious? Again, thatcuriositything.com.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW this Saturday, April 25th show, bringing in expert advice and inside knowledge on today's events in our local economy and how it can affect your money. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but you can talk to myself or I can get you in contact with the guests that I have in studio. Just call the show at 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And back in studio, or still in studio, I should say, for the entire show, I have Jen Mueller, founder of Talk Sporty, to me, sport reporter, professional speaker, and communications coach. And we're talking with Jen today just about how sports can be tied in to your everyday business, the way you interact with your clients. It really can be a lesson learned for any of us that are presenting or motivating ourselves, or even in needing to motivate us. And that's what I really want to start out, Jen, in coming back into commercial, because I had to take us to commercial, and we were talking about the Super Bowl loss this year and what a devastating thing it was, and especially for you being a part of the team and back there in the locker room. And I just liked how you came to a point and shared your story of emotionally where you were at, and you just really didn't want to talk about it, but able to come and go, you know what, I am going to talk about this, and we're going to take a lesson out of this. And I think there's going to be a lesson learned years from now at what happened at the Super Bowl. So if you want to look at things, I believe life is balanced and there's no exceptions to the rule. So anything in failure, the bigger the failure, the bigger the gain right there is waiting for it. And there was great opportunity and lesson learned from that. Would you agree, Jen?
I would absolutely agree. And I would also say that going into this season, that is a huge storyline, not just for Seahawks fans, but around the NFL. So if you are one of the 114 million people who watch the Super Bowl, if you are a fan of either one of those teams or of the NFL, you are going to hear a lot of conversation. And the way Pete Carroll and the Seahawks handle this will be a blueprint, not just for other teams who have gone through devastating losses, but truly for business professionals. And how do you rebound? Or from personal crisis, how do you choose to look at it? And you know, I will share this story from inside the Seahawks locker room 2 days after that loss. So they cleared out their lockers on a Tuesday, and it's kind of like the last day of school, only I think a little bit more emotional, certainly after a loss. But you've got guys who will never play on the team again, you know, and there's a lot of uncertainty. And as they were cleaning out their lockers, we went over to talk to Robert Turbin, who's one of the running backs. And he was saying that he and Russell Wilson had a conversation just the day before, and Russell Wilson was still just beat up over the interception. And Robert Turbin said this. He goes, Russ, just think about the big picture. One day, years from now, some high school or college quarterback is going to come to you, and they're going to be so devastated because they've had a really tough year or really bad game, and you're going to be able to put your arm around them and say, don't worry about it, kid. I threw an interception on the last play of the Super Bowl, and we lost the game. and look at how things turned out for us.
Exactly. How awesome. What a way to turn something so bad into something positive, because that is what a great comment to make to him, that you cannot do what you're going to be able to do if that devastation did not happen. So Jen, let's go ahead and talk about whether female or male, but I think more on the female side, and really this whole your passion behind what you're doing stemmed from women, and women not being able to connect on the same level in business and get the same opportunities because they weren't taking the men to the clients to sports. So what about a female that says, you know what, I don't get it. I don't know about sports. And I have to admit, Jen, just a little bit, and talking about, across from the table, a little bit embarrassing. I do want to know more about sports, and to actually talk in detail about what's happening in the game, I can't do it. I mean, I get and football's really hard. I mean, basketball, baseball, that's pretty easy. Football's a little more complicated to follow sometimes. So how do you bring this into business and confidence? Because that's what business is about. It's about having total confidence in anything you're talking about with your clients or your strategic partners. What would you advise?
I would say your big word right there is confidence.
Yes.
And understand this. Talking sports in business is very, very different than talking sports at a tailgate, at a game, at a sports bar, or if you're a sports broadcaster. I would never expect you to know everything that's going on in sports, and it has nothing to do with male or female, but that's not your job. Your area of expertise is mortgage and numbers. If I could do numbers, I would be in a different job.
Okay.
It's my job to know what's going on, and even then, everything happens so fast, I will never know all there is to know about sports or what's going on. So understand that the person across from you, we tend to make this assumption, women more than men. But do you know, when I go to speaking events, the people who pull me aside more often and say, I don't know sports, are men. Because if you think about it, if a male was never exposed to sports, who's he going to tell? Who are you going to ask? You've got a bigger problem than a woman saying, I don't know sports. So I would say this. Check out my first book, which was called Game Time, Learn to Talk Sports in 5 minutes a day for business. Number 2, go in with just kind of the mind frame of, look, I don't need to know everything.
Okay.
And 3, here's the big one. I want you to approach sports conversations 15 seconds at a time.
Okay, so you're not having a long conversation about sports. You're just doing some little bits and pieces of. So give me an example in a conversation. I'm sitting down with a business professional, and I'm trying to build something's going on big with the any type of sports. How do I gauge and bring that in? How do I leverage it?
So here's what I would say. Any conversation that you are having in business needs to have 3 things. It needs to have a connection, a rapport, and follow-up opportunities.
Perfect.
The connection and the rapport are pretty easy. You can figure those out right away, right? You know if you like the person and if you have something in common.
Okay.
The key in business, because nothing gets done in one interaction, and you know this from working with people on the mortgage, it takes a while. It's the follow-up opportunities. So let's say this week, and this is a huge week in sports because the NFL schedule was just released for the 2015 season. If you're sitting down to a conversation between now and the start of the season, you would say, hey, did you take a look at the Seahawks schedule this year?
Okay.
Which games stand out to you, and are you going to go to any games this year? That's 3 sentences, which equals about 15 seconds.
Okay.
You're going to figure out right away if they're a football fan, an NFL fan, a Seahawks fan, a fan of any other team on that schedule, and you're going to be making mental notes as to what they said.
Okay.
So if they say, I'm really looking forward to the Green Bay game in week 2, which is true, the Seahawks play in Green Bay.
Oh, I
in
get
week
where
2.
you're going. We got to follow up.
You got to follow up with that. So as soon as that conversation is done, not only are you making notes.
Okay, there's brilliant one more time.
Yeah, you're going to put it on your calendar, and you're going to send a note the week before that game to say, good luck to your Packers, but not too much luck, right? And then the Monday morning after the game, you're going to send a note based on the outcome of the game.
Wow.
and then anything else that came up in that conversation.
Yeah, it's just amazing because it is, and yes, connection, rapport, and follow-up. And follow-up, how great is it if your follow-up is just not all about business? How's the property search going? But instead, the follow-up is, hey, I remembered exactly what you said, and I want to check in. And that is, so that makes total sense. So it really isn't about, and it's kind of like in the mortgage industry when I have somebody new come into the team, and they're like, well, what if somebody asks me a question? It doesn't matter. You don't have to have the answer to the question. Just let them know, you know what, I let me just double check. I want to make sure I get the right answer back to you. And in this situation, just like you said, it's all about, in my arena, it's about being in mortgages, and that's my expertise. It's not about sports. And somebody makes some comment about, well, what did you think about Joe Smith and that play that he did? You know what? Actually, to be honest with you, I don't really know that much about sports, but I'm really engaged in having fun in this whole, or however, right? Is that
right? And make sure that you position yourself with confidence even in those situations, because every exchange that you have with people.
So give me confidence in that. Somebody asked me something really specific and I have no idea.
So here's
golf would be another one. I know what 4 means.
So here's what you would say on that one. If somebody asks you about a specific play that you didn't see, you could say something like, you know what? The only thing I've got time to do these days is read the headlines. I saw that they won the game, but I didn't see anything more than the final score. Explain what happened.
Okay. So then now you're doing also the next thing in communication is really allowing them to talk and not doing all the talking yourself.
Right. And if you have an area of expertise, so
you don't want to tell them that you don't know anything about sports.
You are telling them where you feel comfortable talking.
Got it.
So I call it defining your area of expertise.
Okay.
And your expertise could be lots of different things. If it's baseball and they ask you a football or golf question, you go, you know what? I don't watch that much golf, but I love going to a handful of baseball games a year.
Yeah.
So you're switching the subject on them.
Yep, of course.
Your area of expertise could be headlines in the sports section.
Yeah.
Your area of expertise could be the little league team that your kids play on that your niece or nephew plays on.
And, I'm just trying to pull this all together, and I'm having all these aha moments is, when you're in a networking event or you're talking with a client and they start bringing up the fact that their kid is doing this and you don't even have any kids, that's okay, because it's really about letting them tell their story and share their passion and what they're excited about. So it's the same thing. It's really just that it's amazing. So what would be, so I guess that what I'm taking, my takeaway from this, and I hope if you're listening to the show today, any business opportunity or just being able to connect with people on a different level to bring in things that is exciting for all of us, even if you're not really in it and watching it, is the follow-up piece. I think that's amazing, that just have an opportunity to be able to follow up and have it be about something different than what you're trying to ultimately sell them.
And I will tell you this, I have done this for years. I have an editorial calendar that I map out for every sports season.
Okay.
The sports season is built on schedules. So pick whichever season works for you.
Okay.
I like the NFL season because you play one game a week and it's on a very specific night of the week as compared to baseball, which is every night of the week. And you could have a random off night here and there. Monday mornings during the NFL season, I have certain executives that I am targeting around the country that I want to talk to, either to tap into their expertise, to connect with them on potential business opportunities, whatever it is. I will wait and see what the outcomes of the games are on Sunday. Because I can guess that if I'm trying to reach somebody in Baltimore and they're an executive, they have an interest in the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens, which is their NFL team, because you can't be in a corporate environment in a city and not pay attention to.
Sure.
My response rate when I do that and tie it back to the NFL outcome is 100%.
Wow.
And it's not about the business connection. It's about making sure that they've got a reason to talk to me.
Exactly.
And that they already feel like there's a connection there.
And you know what also, Jen, and making note, because how easy it is in follow-up. We know we have to follow up on everything. We have to be strategic on when we're planning on calling and adding that piece in as well, because you don't want to be calling them and following up when you know there's a game on, because they're thinking, gosh, I just told you this game was important. Why in the heck are you calling me in the middle of the game? So what about, before I take it to break, let's talk about the professional, appropriate time to be having conversation about sports.
I use it as an opener.
Okay.
All the time. It's your little small talk. And it could be, hey, did you see the game last night? Or what did you think about, that coaching decision? And do you think we need to implement a policy like this team just did over here? Or, what about a dress code? Do you like the uniform changes? Do we change our uniforms around here? There's lots of different ways, but typically I suggest using sports as the entry point and the small talk into the conversation.
Got it.
The trick is making the segue to business so that it doesn't end up to be a 15-minute conversation.
I'm such a planned out person, Jen, and I'm systems and I can talk hours on that. So I got to ask the question, do you have anything that people participate in your mentoring, things that you've got little tags and things that people can just go and, this is what Jen's having her conversation with her business people. I'm going to use that tag as well.
You know what? I am going to have to start doing that.
That would be awesome.
Usually when
Make sure you let me know when you do, because I'll be all over it.
I will. When I do corporate presentations, we do fill out your own plan of here's your follow-up, here's your schedule, here's the game, here's how you're going to do it.
Yeah, definitely let me know. So coming up next, and still in studio with me is Jen Mueller, founder of Talk Sporty, to me, sports reporter, professional speaker, and communication coach. Just so excited to have her here for the entire show, just talking about sports and how we can bring sports into our conversations with our business professionals, our clients, and just really engage on a whole nother level and make it a little bit of fun. I love saying at the end of a conversation, "Go Hawks," and I just started it in the Super Bowl thing, so it was fun. Right here on 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.
Curiosity changes the world. What are you curious about? What if you could discover how to be more, do more, and have more? Not sometime in the future, in the right now. You will discover practical tools on May 7th at the Tea Palace in Renton that create hope, growth, and purpose in the moment. Join Ringmaster Danny Wynn as he takes you on a musical, entertaining, and transformative adventure intertwined with 8 successful thought leaders who will present on different aspects of productively living your dream now. Take a break from your routine, get out of your normal day-to-day, and discover what is truly possible for you. If not now, when? Proceeds benefit our local youth suicide prevention program. When you sign up now, you not only get to discover how to live your best life, your investment can save a life. Go to thatcuriositything.com and sign up today. That's thatcuriositything.com. Still curious? Again, thatcuriositything.com.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, April 25th show. It's a great day to talk money, and that's why I'm here with you and what the show is all about, how to make money, save money, and most important, how to build a better quality of life for you and your family. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you're listening to a rebroadcast, you can call into the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. Entire show today has been a conversation with Jen Mueller, founder of Talk Sporty to Me, sports reporter, professional speaker, and communications coach. Jen will tell you that sports conversations belong in the boardroom, they belong in client meetings, and they belong in daily interactions at work. So Jen, thank you so much again for spending the entire hour here with me. And let's go ahead and just start out with that. In belonging in boardrooms, client conversations, why?
Because it's the conversation that's ultimately going to open more doors.
Yes.
And I know that there's people out there that are going, I just don't see the connection between sports and making more money. And here's what I will say, and this quote is on the cover of the book. Look, one conversation could very easily change the course of your business forever, but it's not the one that you think.
Yep.
It is not the conversation where you get your next client. It is not the conversation that you get your promotion or your raise. The conversation that makes the biggest difference in your opportunities is the first one.
Yes.
It is the first opportunity to connect with somebody. It is the first opportunity to get a foot in the door and build that relationship. And sports does that quicker and easier than any other topic out there. And it doesn't matter if you're talking to another sports fan or not, having sports as a business tool And I'm not saying that you have to go out and watch 6 hours of football on a Saturday or Sunday, or that you've got to devote your entire weekend to baseball games. But just having this as a tool gives you more opportunities than the person who thinks their work is going to speak for itself.
Yes. So and I like how you say it's the first conversation, because it's the first impression. It's that opportunity to build that warm and fuzzy and get that connection going, that all of a sudden they feel an instant connection with you because you've connected on a level of it's important to them. So let's talk about networking events, Jen, and because a lot of us in the business world, myself as well as a mortgage professional and CEO of a mortgage software, I'm always looking at building my mortgage business, and I'm looking at building my software with the mortgage industry professionals. And networking events is a good way to get out there. And the whole purpose of a networking event is to network and to connect. It's about connecting. And it's, what can you do to connect on a different level than everybody else is? It's not about going and sharing your 30-second commercial with somebody, because when you call them and ask for a lunch appointment, they're going to go, no, I don't have time. But if you actually connect with them on something that's important to them, they're going to want to spend more time with you, right?
I absolutely agree. So here is how I approach networking conversations like that. I know that, and I've been to a lot of different networking events, and there are some that get very creative with the questions that you're supposed to go and ask, right? Like, what's your favorite color and which high school do you go to? And I'm going to tell you that those may or may not work, but the question that works every single time is, who are you rooting for? Or who's your team?
Yeah.
And you go, yeah, but I really don't care. Here's what happens, and I give an example of this in the book. If somebody says, and there's a baseball game going on, hey, who's your team? I personally would say, well, I work on the Mariners broadcast, so I'm always cheering for the Mariners. But I grew up a Houston Astros fan because I grew up in Houston, and my parents and my brother and sister-in-law and my baby niece live there now, and I get back there 4 times a year, and I love it, and it just reminds me of home. If you're at a networking event and you're trying to find a way to connect with me, and I give you that answer,
yes,
how many different pieces of information did I just give you to continue the conversation on?
How many?
It was over 10.
Wow.
Right? I just told you where I grew up. I told you. So now you can figure out all these other things about me. Whereas if you would have said, what's your favorite color? Where'd you go to high school?
Exactly.
Do you drink wine? Yeah, a lot of it. But where is this going? Right? Like, do you really want to know? So I always think that is the better in, because keep in mind, if we're thinking about 15 seconds at a time, I got a lot to accomplish in 15 seconds.
Sure.
I need connection, rapport, and follow-up. That answer just gave it to me.
Yes. And when you're calling to land that appointment, it's not about giving any information on the phone about anything except for connecting and then going, oh, by the way, I would love to get together and go over some loan options with you, or get together and strategize about business opportunities, or whatever the case may be. So, Jen, let's talk about your book, your new book, Talk Sporty to Me, Thinking Outside the Box Scores. You can get, as a listener, if you're listening to this, go online or go to Amazon. You can buy Jen's book. She also has Game Time, which is a book, if you don't know anything about sports, that's her book, and kind of helping in that arena. But let's talk about thinking outside the box scores. What's in this book?
A lot of what we've been talking about today. So if you like learning how to use sports to your advantage and thinking about sports as more than just stats and final scores and last names and team strategies, this book is going to be for you.
Okay.
It actually starts with the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl when they won back in February of 2014. And it ties it into the success that John Nordstrom had running Nordstrom department stores. And there's a business correlation right in the first chapter. But then I pull back the curtain on how I talk to professional coaches and athletes during live post-game interviews and how that relates to business. And, you're talking about the follow-up that you need with clients.
Yes.
I have learned that on average, when I meet a new player, and this happens every single year, this is going to happen with Jimmy Graham and the Seahawks this year. It takes 5 interactions on average between me and a player before we get to the point where I know that we are good to go with a really solid interview, that I could ask him for an interview, win, lose, or draw, and he will be good with it. And so my 5 interactions could be very simple, like, hey, good morning, or that was a great catch at practice, or how you doing today? But there's got to be rapport there, not just when you're in the business world, but for me too. And it's not that much different. It takes me 5 interactions with most potential clients before they become clients.
Makes total sense. So another takeaway that a listener would get from the book, Jen.
Oh, if I have to give just one more takeaway, that there's ways that you can make this easier on yourself. So I love what you said about saying "Go Hawks" at the end of conversations.
Yes.
That is one of the ways that you can bring the conversation to you. If you have sports fans already, and I know that you're out there listening, make it easy on people. Draw a giant bullseye around what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Put "Go Hawks" at the end of an email instead of saying "Have a nice day."
Yes.
See what your response is back from that. You know, if you carry around a newspaper, which I do, carry sports page and picture side out. So if you've got a stack of papers, or if I'm carrying like a briefcase or folders in my arm, I want the sports page to be where everybody can see it.
Really? Okay.
Because then people know that I'm reading it. If I'm on a plane, if I'm traveling, I do this all the time. Because you never know who you're going to sit next to.
Yeah.
I'll pick up the USA Today. I'll read it, but the sports section always goes on top.
Interesting.
And it's an instant conversation starter.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's, I don't know, 8 or 10 different ways in the book to do that one. But you draw the conversation to you because then you get to dictate where that conversation goes.
Exactly. So anything else, Jen, if you get too involved in the conversation around sports and you start to get a little bit uncomfortable that you really don't have the knowledge to go there or whatever the case may be, how would you coach around that?
Very good question. So there's 2 strategies. One we've already talked about in a different format, and that was define your area of expertise.
Okay.
Remember, you don't have to know everything that's going on. So if you start getting too involved in a conversation and you need to pull back, you go, okay, look, I only watched the first half of the game, or I only became a football fan about a year ago, or I just started following the Seahawks this year. It's kind of one of those timeouts in the conversation. And it's a way to retreat without retreating.
Okay.
So you're still staying involved, but you're kind of letting people know, look, I'm kind of in over my head. I need you to fill me in on what's going on.
Okay.
The other strategy is this. If somebody asks you about something you don't know about, do not lie and tell them that you do.
Exactly.
So the 2 words that I use in that scenario are no, but. Did you see the game last night? No, but did you have a chance to see that?
Okay.
Did you see what the NFL
putting it
said
again
about this play?
back on them to allow them to expand on whatever they're awesome.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And it's really good in business anyway, right?
Yes.
Did you see the email I sent? No, but I'm going back to my desk to do that right now.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to end the conversation. There's too many opportunities that could be there.
Exactly. So no but, and every time when you say no but, then they're obviously going to expand and take over the conversation from that point, and then everything's all good. Right. And again, remember, Jen said in a previous segment here today that you are not an expert in sports. That's not what you do for a living. It's okay. I do mortgages for a living. I do my radio show. I talk money, but it's okay that I don't know everything about sports. It's all good. It's just about being a part of it and participating in that conversation so we can connect it on a deeper level. So let's talk about, as a sports reporter, I just think it's awesome now that you're taking all of that expertise and learning and everything that you have there and bringing it into this unique opportunity for speaking and communication coach. So can you talk about, for anybody that's listening and for myself as well, in more detail on those speaking opportunities and the communication coaching? Can you talk about that piece of your business?
Yeah. So I go into corporations and do a lot of staff training, and it's around personal development work. So a lot of the conversations that you have, whether it be internal or if you are a sales-driven company that needs to deal with external clients, we talk about how this works and how do you really position yourself in every conversation to succeed. Because it doesn't matter what you're talking about, people judge you every single time you talk. And what you say either reinforces what they think they know, or it causes them to rethink their previous assumptions about you. And so we do a lot of work with that. And it could range from actual communication strategies to learning how to read a box score for business.
Yeah.
There's 9 different ways to talk about a box score without ever watching a game that positions yourself in every sports conversation in business.
So the coaching end of it and the speaking and training end of it really is about learning a little bit more about sports, as well as the idea of what this can do for your business. And I want to challenge as a listener, if you're just thinking about this and connecting these two, build team, motivate, and inspire. When you think about building a team, motivating, and inspiration and inspiring, whether it's inspiring, motivating, or building your environment in your team, or whether you're a leader and trying to do that for your people, what do you think about? You think about sports. I mean, sports is when you go in and you type in and on YouTube, inspiration or motivation or any of those, and because I have done it, I'm really big about motivation and inspiration, and I love those videos and the music and the, let's get crazy and get all fired up. And I would say that at least 80% of them are all about, there's all sports. And so that's the area that we feel the team environment, we feel the motivation, and we feel the inspiration. So why not bring that excitement in to our business conversations
and make it more of a daily thing instead of just using sports cliches or metaphors, right? Make this part of just kind of the culture and how you communicate with each other. There is a way to do this effectively, and I want to be there to inspire and encourage and really, get people talking on a different level.
And that's why it's called Talk Sporty to me. So, Jen, my time is up here with you. I'm definitely going to have you back in studio, and I hope that you can make time for my show here on 1150 AM KKNW. Leave my listeners with just one tip, one wrap up, one call to action to get them thinking about the conversation of sports and business.
You already are a rock star in your area of expertise. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you have all the tools at your disposal to show off that rock star status. Use sports to start the conversation and let your expertise carry the rest.
Love it. Jen, thank you so much for spending time here with me. And more importantly, thank you for sharing your inspiration, your motivation, and everything that you have to offer with my listeners.
Thank you.
And this is your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, signing off for the day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you very much for being a part of my show. And I will be here same time, same place next weekend, right here on 1150 AM KKNW. Have a great weekend.
The preceding program is paid for by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Absolute Mortgage Company, NMLS number 81395 and Washington CL number 81395 is an equal opportunity housing lender. Tina Mitchell, MLO number 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Absolute Mortgage. Visit absoluteloans.com or call 888-90-HOMES for cost information.